once again played host to the biggest event of the year on the South African rally calendar. The Total Rally of South Africa was this year round 3 of the National Rally Championship and round 2 of the FIA African Rally Championship, with competitors from 4 African countries joining the cream of the local crop in the Western Cape. The Total Rally of South Africa was run for the first time last year, with the long-term aim of seeing South Africa back on the FIA World Rally Championship calendar in the near future. The first step towards this objective came with the event this year granted FIA African Rally Championship status, with competitors from Zambia, Zimbabwe, Uganda and Namibia joining South African crews in Cape Town. The Western Cape is a stronghold of South African rallying, and the international crews added an extra element of expectation to an event important to crews with South African and FIA African Rally Championship title aspirations. Leading the South African Championship were reigning champions Jan Harvig and Douglas Judd, who were looking for a hat-trick of victories this season in the factory Sasol VW Golf 4. Rally headquarters and the start and finish were at the Civic Centre in Cape Town, and festivities at the start would not have been complete without a little local colour and music. As the countdown to the start continued, South African champions Jan Harvig and Doug Judd were not all that concerned about being drawn the first car on the road.
We're quite pleased to be car 1 on the road because we can just ride the road as we see it. There are no marks on the road at all, and we prefer that. The disadvantages are really that we don't know what lies around the corners, but we've been over most of the route, not all of it, and so we're fairly confident that we can run well on as car number 1.
Following the South African champions off the start ramp were Gauteng driver Paulo Piazzamuso and local co-driver Nick Haddon in the Ford Escort. After enjoying support from Sasol last year, the Piazza Motorsport team are this year running as privateers and were looking for a morale-boosting result. Right behind Piazzamuso and Haddon were a crew carrying massive support from Western Cape enthusiasts. Somerset West residents Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson in the dealer team Toyota Corolla were looking for a second successive win on the Rally of South Africa. A good result was what was needed to boost their SA Championship hopes, but for others like South African Chart van der Walt, Ugandan star Emmanuel Kato and Zambian veteran Satwan Singh, there were other priorities.
We currently got 3 points in the Africa Championships, which sounds in our championship not like many points, but you only get the same than Formula 1 you only the first 6 cars get points. So what we now have done, we've changed the management system on this car to be fully FIA compliant. So we got a chance to pick up more Africa points, and then after this event we will fall back to the TDI for the rest of the season, in hopefully to do most of the Africa Championships, but we will definitely go to Zambia and see if we can improve our points. So I mean, for me this is I must actually in 2 championships try and pick up points for this one.
No, we're looking forward to the event. We had a look at the stages yesterday. The stages are very, very fast and a lot smoother than what we're used to. We're used to typical safari conditions, which are very, very rough. And as you can see, the car is built for very rough conditions. So I'm sure some of the smaller cars here will be going a lot quicker than us. But we hope to give them a run for their money. We're hoping for a good result.
Last year was a good year for me. I had a very nasty accident, and it was a collapse of my first lumbar on my backbone. So I was off for a year. But it happens, you know. It's one of the major accidents in my whole career. I have several accidents, but that was a major one, so such an injury. But this year we are strong.
7 special stages were on the schedule for day 1 of the Total Rally of South Africa, with crews heading for the Grabouw, Botrevier and Caledon areas. The route would take in some superb Western Cape scenery, but sightseeing wasn't on the agenda where competitors were concerned. There was a lot of work to be done, and the Sasol VW factory crew, Jan Harvig and Douglas Judd, were not about to waste any time in opening up a gap between themselves and the rest of the pack. Under South African regulations, the Sasol VW Golf runs in the Premier Class A8 category, with the car also homologated for the FIA African Rally Championship. The Ford Escort of Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon also runs in Class A8 under local regulations. The pair were likely to find themselves embroiled during the day in a battle with the Class A6 Toyota Corollas of Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson and Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the team total entry. Over the years, Damso has been virtually unbeatable in his own backyard. But with the 7-time SA champion and Hodgson running to Class A6 specifications, they'd have their work cut out to keep in touch with Harvick and Judd. After 2 non-finishes this season, Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding in a second Sassel VW Golf running in Class A8 were desperate for a good result. Steaming along behind them was the Toyota Celica GT4 of Ugandan Emmanuel Kato and Kenyan Peter Stone, with the pair having their first taste of rallying under South African conditions. While the Celica was built to withstand the tough safari rally conditions, Zambian Satwan Singh and Tumbi Goma were out in the impressive turbocharged Subaru Impreza, campaigned 2 years ago by World Rally champion Colin McRae. Singh is no stranger to South African conditions, and he's also a former FIA African Rally champion. At a service park on the outskirts of Trabo, technical crews were waiting to work on their charges for the first time. Under FIA rules, work on cars is allowed only in designated service parks. It was going to be a long day for the technicians, and after only one special stage, there were already signs of a little wear and tear.
Yanni, the body panels seem to be taking a beating. Tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, some parts of the stages are very, very rough. It's like big rocks, sort of half a brick size. And obviously with the front wheel spinning all the time, it just chucks the rocks out, and it's obviously causing a bit of damage to the panels. But it's not driver error, it's just the conditions of the road.
Local favourites Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson picked up a power steering problem in the opening special stage and dropped 25 seconds to Harvick and Judd. That was not a train smash at this early stage, and Damso was philosophical about conditions he knows like the back of his hand.
Conditions, a bit of dusty in some part of the stages. I see the stages are starting to break up a bit, but we had quite a good stage. We lost power steering about 10 kilometers from the end, so we lost a bit of time there, but we had a reasonable good stage.
Ugandan Emmanuel Kato took time out for a little refreshment and a chat with Paolo Piazzamuso. Co-driver Peter Stone looked a little bemused, and the Zambian flag was fluttering in the breeze while service crews set to work on the Singh Goma Subaru Impreza. Team owner Singh was keeping a close eye on proceedings, while over in the Sassel VW camp there were early worries for the long-established pairing of Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding. The pair picked up a problem in stage 1, and there was a flurry of activity around the car with van der Walt looking a little concerned.
Some problems.
Yeah, the belt, the problem that took us out on the last event happened now again after we've done a lot of work on the alternator and the belt and that sort of thing, but the belt came off 3Ks.
Bonafide was so dominant in seasons gone by. Also having a good run was Skuldberger and Martin Buerta in the Subaru Impreza, who were challenging strongly for a place in the top 5. A peaceful late afternoon in the Overberg, disturbed only by the sound of rally cars, with the ubiquitous Hannes Krobner and Brian Duncan challenging for a place in the top 5 in the Team Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. It was a mind-boggling performance from a Group N car, but over the last 20 years, rally enthusiasts have come to expect that sort of thing from Krobler. Trying to make up ground in Class N2 were Kobus Roos and Neil Fourie in the SALive.com Toyota, who, like arch rivals Dean Sanders and Graham Hooper, had fallen foul of punctures. Zimbabweans Jamie White and Philip Archimel in a Nissan Sentra were also going along steadily, as were countrymen Abe Smith, a former FIA African Rally champion, and Pete Marsh in the diesel-powered VW Golf TDI running under the Sassel banner. Also soldiering along among the midfielders were Doug Kemsley and Steve Krobler in the top car Fuchs BMW, with local crews Stephen van Dijk and Mark Pim now running at the head of Class N2 in the Toyota Corolla. On the menu, technical personnel were preoccupied at a service point with fitting the special lights required for rallying in the dark. Behind rally leaders Jan Harvick and Doug Judd, dust was going to be a major problem for crews, but at this stage of proceedings, Zimbabwean teams were more than happy with their lot. Former FIA African Rally champion Abe Smith was thoroughly enjoying South African conditions.
It's really interesting because it's nice and tight, the roads are narrow. If you go off, you're going to have a problem, so I think we just got to take it easy for the moment.
And how's the diesel been performing down here?
Oh yeah, we're very happy with it. It's just so reliable, and you know, it's we're not going to keep up with the petrol guys, but you know, it won't be long before we're there. we're developing the car, and I'm happy enough the way it's gone so far.
A colourful sunset, plenty of spectators along the route, and with darkness rapidly approaching, rally leaders Jan Harbig and Doug Judd were in full cry in the Sasol VW Golf 4. Harbig and Judd were comfortable leaders with the overnight halt approaching, but there was concern in the VW camp with the VW Golf's engine consistently misfiring. Technicians were battling to find the cause of the misfire, but in the gathering gloom, dust was a major problem for those behind the Sasol Golf. And Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon dropped time through poor visibility, with the Ford Escort also suffering from a mysterious misfire. After battling for most of the day to stay in touch with the Harbig Judd VW Golf, local heroes Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson dropped more than a minute on the rally leaders in the first of the night stages. With the dealer team Toyota Corolla having a clean run, it was a little frustrating for the Western Cape crew. They were not the only ones battling in the dust, and Emmanuel Cato and Peter Stone were also finding the big Toyota Celica a handful in the tighter sections of the route. Although running fifth on the road, Zambian Satwan Singh and Mtumbi Goma had dropped down the pecking order to be on the fringes of the top 10 in the turbocharged Subaru Impreza. The pair were a source of frustration for the quicker Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the Team Total Toyota Corolla, with a differential problem an added source of worry for the KwaZulu-Natal crew. There was also a great deal of local support for Jean-Pierre Damso and Johan Klaassen in the Team Total Toyota Corolla, but they were still dropping time to the Damso Senior, Hodgson and Lawrence Paisley combinations in Class A6. The Namibian pair of Reichardt Himmel and Adolf Buerters were still going along without any problems, with the ex-Damso Toyota Conquest 4x4 proving to be as reliable as ever. Crews further back in the field were now seriously hampered by a dust problem, but Skuldberger and Martin Buerter had worked their way into the top 5 after an impressive performance. Barry Grobler and Mike Burrows in the Sasol VW Golf were grinding out a result in their normal fashion, with Zimbabweans Hannes Kruger and Tony Rowley also on the fringes of the top 10 in another Toyota Corolla. Behind them and continuing to match the pace of the slower Group A cars were Hannes Grobler and Brian Duncan in the Team Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. Grobler and Duncan were in complete charge and consistently taking time off the likes of Singh and Goma. At the final service point of the day, the Sasol VW Golf Camp decided on a concerted effort to try and find the misfire that was worrying the team. Off came the tappet cover from the Golf motor, with newly appointed VW Motorsport manager Johan Ebertser not too concerned with what the engine boffins discovered.
Well, we basically just checked the motor to make sure that everything is okay. Valve clearances are fine, so it's not too great a concern, but you know, it's like with anything, the rally only ends at the finish, and it's just a precautionary check.
The Sasol VW squad were not the only ones with problems. The Lawrence Paisley Team Total Toyota Corolla needed a gearbox change, with Lawrence and service crew working against time to get the job done before they faced incurring lateness penalties. For rally crews, this sort of situation is a character builder, and you can tell your local garage they managed to get the job done in under 30 minutes.
I've got to do it. The difference is gone. These last 3 stages was bad. You put it in the reverse now, it's really bad. So I have to change it. I'll never make tomorrow. That's it.
Over in the Piazzamuso camp, there was good news.
You've had a bit of a disastrous second half of the rally.
Yeah, we thought it was a misfire earlier in the day, but then we realized it was fuel starvation problems. There's a little filter inside the tank, and I think that was blocked. So we blew it backwards, cleared it out, and the last 2 stages we're back on the pace. Took time off Serge and that, so yeah, we're happy now. Tomorrow we can go for the chase.
Up and down the service park, technical crews were working away at mechanical problems, some of them more serious than others. But for most of the drivers and co-drivers, dust in the night stages was the major bugbear.
We've been battling at night with the dust. You know, even the 10-minute gaps now, we're still shooting a lot in the dust. But I mean, it's the same for everybody, so really, I mean, we're all in the same boat. And the stages are pretty rough. You know, pretty what we used to back home in Zimbabwe. So, you know, we're used to those kind of conditions anyway.
Quick valet services were also in evidence in the service park, and more than happy with their day's work were Class N2 leaders Stefan van Dijk and Mark Pim.
It was very rough, and it looked like Dean and Kobus picked up some problems, and I mean that's the way it goes, and it's been really well for us, and we're leading, I think, about 2.5 minutes now.
It had been a day of trials and tribulations for Kobus Roos and Neil Fourie in the SALive.com Toyota Corolla and reigning Class N2 champions Dean Sanders and Graham Hooper. The final special stage of the day produced more headaches for Roos and Fourie.
We're just changing the caliper. On the last stage we had a flat wheel and it demolished our complete rear caliper, which is the second time today on the back here. So we're just changing it. Just need to bleed the brakes quickly again to get some brakes, but then we'll go again.
Cape Town by night, and a welcome respite for crews with Jan Habig and Doug Judge more than 3 minutes ahead of Damso Hodgson at the end of day one. A great battle had developed between Piazza Musso, Haddon and Lawrence Paisley, and a phenomenal performance from Grobler Duncan in 6th overall. 7th and the first of the internationals were Cato and Stone. Taking a leaf out of the off-road racing book, there was an early start for competitors and service crews on day 2 of the Total Rally of South Africa. Long before sunrise, and with most people still warmly tucked up in beds, crews and the technical boffins were preparing for what was going to be another long day. For some crews, there were tactical considerations to be discussed, while service crews attended to the last-minute little adjustments to machinery that had taken a battering on day one. With important points up for grabs in both the South African and FIA African Rally Championships, nothing was being left to chance during the early morning preparations. Where the day 2 route was concerned, crew were heading for Belleville, Paarl and Franschhoek before heading back to the Cape Town finish via Caledon, Botrevier, Grabouw and Khayelitsha. The sun was just starting to appear over the mountains when the first special stage of the day got underway. Overnight leaders Jan Habig and Doug Judge were first on the road in the Sasol VW Golf, with the engine note sounding a little rough. The early morning start didn't deter hardy rally enthusiasts, with large crowds lining the route at prime spectator points. It was obvious that all was not well with the rally leaders, but at the end of the special stage they still held a lead of nearly 3 minutes over local favourites Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson. The dealer team Toyota Corolla was sounding crisp in the early morning air, with the pair off to a flying start. Behind Damso and Hodgson, battle was resumed between Paolo Piazza Musso and Nick Haddon in the Ford Escort and the Team Total Toyota Corolla of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley. Only half a minute separated the two crews at the overnight halt, and this was a scrap that offered plenty of potential. The Ford and the Toyota were being chased by Skulkberger and Martin Puerta in the Subaru Impreza, with the pair intent on getting their FIA African Rally Championship campaign back on an even keel. The 4x4 turbocharged Subaru was impressive, but even more impressive was the display of Group N leaders Hannes Grobler and Brian Duncan, who were still running ahead of a cluster of Group A cars in the standard Team Total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. As was to be expected in the fairest Cape of them all, the Total Rally of South Africa was never short on impressive scenery and Cape Dutch architecture. Rally crews don't get much time to admire the scenery or the local architecture, but Special Stage 9 produced plenty of early Day 2 drama. Reigning South African champions Jan Habig and Doug Judge went into the Cape event with 2 wins in 2 events under their belts, but the Sasol VW Golf 4 was not sounding well. The Golf finally expired on Jan Habig and Doug Judge, handing the South African champions their first non-finish in 19 successive events. The demise of Habig and Judge handed Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson the lead in the dealer team Toyota Corolla, running in Class A6 for 1,60 litre cars. With Special Stage 9 also claiming the Ford Escort of Paolo Piazza Musso and Nick Haddon, the KwaZulu-Natal pair of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley found themselves moving from 4th to 2nd, with 2 Class A6 cars running at the front of the rally. Since the adoption of the Group A and Group N regulations in South Africa, no Class A6 car has ever won a national championship event, and a little history was perhaps in the making. The special stage adjacent to the Tal Monument in Paarl is always a magnet for Cape Rally enthusiasts. And with local favourites Damso and Hodgson now leading the rally, there was a festive atmosphere among the crowd. Damso and Hodgson know Cape Rally roads like the back of their hands, and the pair had an advantage of around 3 minutes over Lawrence and Paisley. Unless you want to fall off a mountain, going off the road on stages like this is not recommended. But Lawrence and Paisley were going well, after fitting a new gearbox to the Team Total Toyota Corolla at the final service point prior to the overnight stop. The KwaZulu-Natal pair have now added reliability to pace, and prior to the Total Rally of South Africa, picked up third places on both the Tour Natal on home soil and the SA Live.com rally in Gauteng. Behind the two Toyotas, the Skalkberger and Martin Botha combination were now fourth in the Subaru Impreza, but had lost third gear. There were giveaways for the crowd from the SA Live.com commentary team, and it all added to the festivities, while crews got on with the job of rallying. Group N leaders, Anna Strobler and Brian Duncan, had also picked up a place or two in what was turning into an unbelievable drive with Emmanuel Cato and Peter Stone, the first of the international crews in the Toyota Celica GT4. They occasionally found the Celica a bit of a handful, but after a relatively quiet day one, were starting to pick up the pace in a car built to measure for marathon events like the Safari Rally in Kenya. The demise of Heiberg and Judd and the day one retirement of Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding now left Barry Throbler and Mike Burrows carrying the Sasol VW flag in Class A8. The pair were going along steadily and looking to pick up valuable SA Rally Championship points. Also picking up the pace a little were Namibians Reichardt Himmel and Adolf Buertes in the ex-Damso Toyota Conquest 4x4. By running in Class S20, the pair were not eligible for FIA African Rally Championship points, but Zambians Satwan Singh and Mtumi Goma in the ex-McRae Subaru Impreza were now second to Berger and Botha in the race for African Championship points. Among the spectators at the Paarl stage were Serge Damso's wife and daughter, and they looked quite happy at the way the event was panning out. Also happy with proceedings so far were local crews Stefan van Dijk and Mark Pim, who were leading Class N2 in a Toyota Corolla in another impressive performance. It was great fun for the spectators, and enjoying themselves in the thick of the action were Zimbabweans Hannes Kruger and Tony Rowley. A steady drive in the Castrol auto-equipped Toyota Corolla had taken them to the fringes of the overall top 10. Stay tuned. At the Paarl Service Park, it was business as usual in the Toyota camp. Now running first on the road, Serge Damso was quite happy with his lot.
Well, we've had a 20k stage plus a 9k so without changing, and the highway actually looks quite good, you know. So, and been running number one on the road, I must say it's quite a clear vision from all the dust we've had on this event, but enjoying it.
So Robert, what's the state of play?
At this moment, or just before the previous stage, we were leading Skalk by 1 minute 14. So at this time we can't slack down too much, but it will be quite difficult to catch Serge because he's leading us by just over 3 minutes at the moment.
With the pair now sitting on a full house of points in the FIA African Championship, Skalkberger and Martin Botha were also happy with their day's work.
Went very well so far, so we're on the road, the car's still lasting. We're battling a bit with the gearbox, but we're still there.
What's the problem with the gearbox?
We can't select third gear very easily, so we use first, second and fourth, but we just space it to get to the end.
Keeping track of special stage scores and running tallies keeps navigators busy at service points. The Uganda-Kenyan combination of Emmanuel Cato and Peter Stone were moving up the leaderboard and happy with their progress.
We've had a couple of really nice stages, you know, we're really enjoying it now. I think we're more used to the conditions now, you know, and we're getting used to the way the car's handling under the conditions, you know, so we're enjoying ourselves.
And the pace notes, how are you finding them, Peter?
Okay, I'd just like to say Emmanuel missed one important point. At least we can see where we're going today. Yeah, we managed to do a lot of correction to the original pace notes, so it was nice to do this last one, which was on our notes. The first two were blind, but they seemed to work, and we were able to follow the tracks of the other cars. No, we had a good time. They call it doing it sideways. Yeah.
Over in the Subaru camp of former FIA African Rally champion Satwan Singh and co-driver Mtumi Goma, the atmosphere was not as buoyant.
I understand you're having some drivetrain problems?
Yes, we lost third and fourth gear. So we're just nursing it to the end.
The international crews were finding the going a little tough. Namibians Rachat Himmel and Adolf Buerters were still running strongly, but had also run into minor problems in the ex-Damso car.
Well, the conditions very rough. We are not used of that rough in Namibia, but that suits the 4x4. But we had a lot of problems. I think the wheel alignment on our car was out, and we suffered yesterday. But today that's going good, so we are very happy today.
A little alternative transport in the Overberg, with the area around Franschhoek again providing for some breathtaking scenery and some impressive monuments to the past. On the rally route, Hannes Grobler and Brian Duncan were focused on the present, and there was some bad news for the pair. A puncture had dramatically slowed their progress, with Grobler and Duncan trying to nurse the car through to the end of the special stage. Those in the huge crowd at a spectator vantage point who were hoping for some spectacular motoring from the pair were in for a disappointment. The team total Bridgestone Nissan Sentra was in no shape for heroics. But more important was the fact that Grobler and Duncan were dropping valuable time to those chasing after the pair. Among those doing the chasing were local crews Stefan van Dijk and Mark Pym in a Toyota Corolla. The pair were leading Class N2 in a great drive, and behind them there was another impressive performance from local lads Richard Berm and Ashley Gericka in the Palben Autoquip Toyota Conquest. They've moved up the pecking order in Class N2 and were involved in a little scrap with Adrian Karth and Rikus Fourie in a VW Golf. Although running well down the field, Karth and Fourie had a tight hold on Class A7, following the early Day 1 retirement of championship leaders Tony Ball and Martin Olivier. Firmly in the saddle in Class N1 were reigning champions Rodney Versaghi and Carolyn Swan in the team total Toyota Taz. Providing for some spectacular action were Doug Kemsley and Steve Grobler in the rear-wheel drive Top Car Fuchs BMW. But unfortunately for them, the pair were headed for retirement while running second in Class A8.
Well, we were actually taking it easy, and we were lying second in class, so we really had nothing in it, nothing to prove. We wanted a whole station, and the whole rear differential casing broke, and that put us out. No time to change it, and great pity because we only have 4 more stages left.
For the big-budget factory and well-sponsored privateer teams, rallying is a pleasure. For those operating on a shoestring budget, it's tough going, and promising young drivers often disappear from the scene through lack of finance. Making a welcome return to action was young Cape driver Richard Byrne.
A welcome return to competition.
Yes, it's been a good return. New car, as you can see. Spent a lot of long nights working hard on the car at home, and it's coming along nicely. I've just kept it in the middle of the road and keeping a nice, even, steady pace, and it's paying off.
For Class A7 leaders, Adrian Karth and Rikus Fourie, the Total Rally of South Africa was turning into a test of character. The route was rough in places, with the VW Golf being campaigned by the pair this season taking a beating. At the Grabo Service Park, the VW Golf was showing definite signs of wear and tear.
We've encountered boulders the size of rugby balls in the stages. I think that's what's taken the guys out, but we've driven with the mind and not with force, and it's paying off in the long run. Although we've been having problems from day one with exhaust flanges breaking off and everything else going wrong, but we're hanging in there, going well.
Class N1 leaders Rodney Versaghi and Carolyn Swan in the team total Toyota Taz had a handy lead over brothers Mike and Robin Houghton in that class. Under the circumstances, they were now quite happy to sit on their lead and were intent only on making it to the finish.
It's very sandy, everything's loose, and the big cars just throw rocks into the road and you're just dodging rocks all day long. That's all you're doing. And with the lead we've got now, we just want to keep the car in one piece and keep it together.
The Total Rally of South Africa was now into the home stretch, and firmly in the saddle were Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson in the dealer team Toyota Corolla. A little rally history was still in the making, with the local crew maintaining a 3-minute advantage over KwaZulu-Natal pair Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the team Total Toyota Corolla. The team Total pair were under a little pressure from Schalk Burger and Martin Buerter, but with the Subaru Impreza running without third gear, Burger and Buerter were more preoccupied with securing the 10 points up for grabs in the FIA African Rally Championship than they had made progress throughout the day, only to fall foul of the scrutineers at the end of the event. They were excluded for running an oversized turbocharger, And among those to move up the pecking order in the final results were Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows, who were runaway Class A8 leaders. Van Dijk and Pim had Class N2 in the bag after an impressive drive, with Kobus Roos and Neil Fourie fighting back in the SALive.com Toyota Corolla to take second in class behind the Cape crew. Some budding rally stars of the future were out in force, with Class A7 leaders Adrian Karth and Rickers Fourie now coasting towards the finish. The VW Golf was sounding a little tired, but there was a huge gap between Karth and Fourie and the next Class A7 car, driven by veterans Spotty Woodhead and John Ogden. The Woodhead VW Golf was having its 99th national or regional championship outing, but the pair were now around half an hour behind the Karth-Fourie entry. Veteran former SA champions Jeff Mortimer and Kerry Gericke were a solid third in Class N3 in a Sasol-backed Nissan Sentra, while Rodney Fasaki and Caroline Simmer were on their way to their second Class N1 win of the season in the Team Total Toyota Taz. Second in class, around 3 minutes behind the reigning champions, were brothers Mike and Robin Houghton in the Toy Toy Spares Toyota Taz. Driver Mike has finished every national rally he's entered, and co-driver Robin is better known as a multiple South African off-road champion. Table Mountain was shrouded in cloud when the final special stage of the Total Rally of South Africa got underway in the massive car park adjoining the Civic Centre. It was an emotional moment for Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson in the dealer team Toyota Corolla. They had just over a kilometre to complete to take their second successive Rally of South Africa win and become the first Class A6 crew to win a national rally. But for even the top champions, there's a slip between cup and lip, and the rally leaders lost a few seconds through a wrong slot. It was more embarrassing than it was costly. It was a little faux pas Damso and Hodgson could have done without, but there's nothing like winning a rally, making a little history, and going to the top of the South African Championship leaderboard to take away the pain. Crews are not overly fond of short parking lot special stages at the end of a rally. A little error like hitting a curb can cost a team a rally or class win, but the spectator stages pull in the crowds. It's all part of South African rallying's policy of taking the sport to the people, and parking lot special stages provide additional exposure for sponsors. It was all good, clean fun, with crews rising to the occasion to provide the huge crowd with some spectacular and noisy entertainment. Apart from the odd wrong slot and a missed gear here and there, the Civic Centre's special stage didn't provide for any real drama until Zimbabweans Abe Smith and Pete Marsh came on the scene. Within meters of the finish, their diesel Sasol VW Golf cried enough, and the car had to be pushed into the final control point. To the victors go the spoils, and for Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson, the victory celebrations were a moment to savour.
I feel very good to win this event. It's a special win for our car. I think it's a good thing for Corolla RSI. Never thought we would win a rally with the 1600, but I've won it with the 1600 about 10 years ago, so maybe it's another chance again. Thank you.
It was also celebration time for Eddie and Lawrence and Robert Paisley.
We had a bit of problems, but I suppose everybody has. Ours was just a little bit extensive. The pace was hot in front, and I managed to keep it together, although we were quite a few minutes behind. But I'm grateful. Second is nothing to smile at, you know? That's good. I'm happy.
Also in on the champagne act, Skulk Burger and Martin Buerta.
It was great to finish this event, and that's what our intention was, to get to the end, and it ended quite well.
And more champagne for Cato and Stone before the bombshell of their exclusion.
Yesterday was a very difficult experience for us. It was a culture shock when we saw the roads over here. But, you know, we got used to them, and today we had a really, really good run. We had a fastest time. I think we came second in one, third in another. And, you know, we got to learn, you know, the way that your roads go, and we got to handle the car a bit better. But we've definitely enjoyed it, you know. We've enjoyed the South African hospitality. It's been very good.
An historic result for Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson and a triumph for Toyota. FIA African Series honours went to Skalkberger and Martin Botha, and there were marvellous performances from Hannes Krobler and Brian Duncan and the Stefan van Dijk-Mark Pim combination. Highlights of the Total Rally of South Africa were proudly presented by Total.